Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're talking about the Death Note movie on Netflix. It's going to be a spoiler-filled discussion about the movie and how terrible it was. I'm sorry.
And also spoiler filled about the anime too, because we'll probably
Yes, we're going to compare and contrast the anime.
talk about the anime in comparison to this god-awful movie.
Yes.
So, how did you feel about the movie overall?
I did enjoy watching it, partially because a lot of it made me laugh. I think it's fun to kind of make fun of. The filmmaking in general, from a technical aspect, I think the movie is okay. You know, the acting in general is okay. I enjoyed watching it. Is it good? No, it's not. What did you think of the movie?
Well, I think if you're a huge Death Note fan and you love the anime, do not watch this movie. You are going to hate it. Now, if you're a regular moviegoer and you have never seen the anime, you don't necessarily watch anime, you just like movies in general, this movie still, for you, sucked. Do not watch it. Nobody will like this movie. It was terrible in every way. I can't imagine any group of people, anime fans or not, enjoying this movie.
I think
It was horrific.
I think some people would find some enjoyment. It's just like not really worth the time invested in it. It's an interesting plot, but that's because of what it's based on. It's interesting in the plot, which is from the anime. So go watch the anime.
Yeah. If you are interested at all in the plot, just watch the anime. Don't even waste your time with this movie. It was horrible. For viewers out there who maybe don't watch anime, that is me. I do not like anime at all. I have tried to watch anime in the past, and I have never enjoyed it until now. Death Note is the only anime that I've ever watched all the way through and enjoyed all the way through. So I'm speaking kind of from the perspective of a person who isn't a big anime fan necessarily.
Yeah, so it's good to have that perspective. So do you want to start with the characters?
Yes, let's talk about how terrible the characters were. What did you think? What did you think of Light, the character of Light?
Okay, I thought so Light Yagami or Light Turner in this is
Light Turner.
the good guy. Well, not the good guy. He's
The
kind of
protagonist.
Yeah, he's the protagonist. So he's doing something for a good reason. We'll get to those reasons in a second. But in this movie, his character was super unlikable.
Well, and that's the funny thing, because in the anime, Light is the villain, but you like his character because he's interesting. He's cold, he's calculated, he's intelligent, and he's just a really good chess player. He's a really good match for L, and you just never know who's going to outsmart the other person. So he's an interesting character, and you kind of want him at times to outsmart L because you want to keep the chess match going. But
Exactly.
in this movie, seems like the writers didn't want to go the route. They were too maybe afraid to go the route of making the main character the villain. So they tried too hard to make his character a good guy. And
or likable to the audience. More likable, I guess.
Relatable to the audience, which
Relatable
really
is a good
killed
word.
his character because, they introduced him as this really intelligent, smart person, and it's mentioned several times how smart he is in the movie, but you never see him display this intelligence at all.
He does one thing that's smart in the entire movie, but before he does that, he's just kind of a complete bumbling idiot.
Yeah, and he totally does everything off of emotion. How he's feeling towards this girl at school that he's in love with, Mia, who we think is supposed to be Misa, although you wouldn't know it because...
Only because she's female.
And her name is Mia.
That's it, yeah.
But other than that, she has no commonality with the character Misa. But he's in love with this girl, and he just does things. He makes decisions based on that, which is also weird because he goes against character at the end and basically kills her. So that, to me, was
it was all
very
pointless.
like you're doing everything for her, but then now all of a sudden at the end you're going to outsmart her and kill her. It's just
And the thing is that his motivations were fleshed out in the beginning of the movie, and then they change when he develops a relationship with this girl, and it just completely derails the plot and any kind of interest that this movie might have been building.
Exactly, yeah. So, Light's character in the anime is a great character. I loved how they made the main character the villain, the evil one.
He was manipulative.
Yeah, he was cold. He was
Calculated.
using Misa the whole time, and in the movie, he's just a coward.
Being used.
Yeah, he's being used. And so it just made his character way less interesting and way less likable. And that brings us to Elle, the other really likable character.
Yeah.
In the anime. What did you think of Elle's character? Because Elle's character out of all of them was probably the closest, had the most similarities to his character in the anime.
I liked his character the most until, like I say, about halfway through the movie or at some point where his butler or whoever, Watari, dies, and he completely... He's calculated. He goes off of everything through thoughts. He doesn't do anything off of emotion or anything like that. And then Watari dies, and boom, he's like angry all the time. He's snapping at
an emotional character all of a sudden.
He steals a cop car.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about Elle's character is it was the most similar to the anime, but he's smart. He's actually smart. He's calculated. He's outsmarting Light throughout the whole...
He figures him out right away.
He figures him out right away. But it's irritating because in the movie, Light is not his intelligent counterpart.
They can't match up.
There's no match. They make Elle's characters extremely smart and they made Light extremely stupid.
Yeah, so they can't one-up each other.
Yeah, there's no competition. Elle literally has no competition. It's probably one of the easiest cases he's ever solved. Because the first time he meets with Light's like... Oh yeah, by the way, I'm Kira.
Well, he's like, I think you're Kira, and he's like, oh, what do you know about it? Oh,
how do you know that?
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's like, oh, well, I'm gonna prove it. Yeah. Well, he just kind of admitted it to you, so that was that whole thing was pointless. It was almost like because Elle didn't have a intellectual counterpart, they had to make him emotional at the end to give his character somewhere to go because.
Yes, so that they could have that boss chase scene.
With the 80s music.
Kind of pointless.
That was probably the only enjoyable thing about the movie was the chase scene with the 80s music in the background, which was very unfitting but still enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the actor that played Elle, I think he did a really good job. I think he probably did the best out of all of them.
Yes, and that's what I want to say, too, is that the actors... Especially Elle, the guy who played Elle, they did a good job. The actors did the acting was not bad.
I think it was fine.
Well, and who played Ryuk?
Willem Dafoe.
I mean, the acting was not bad. It was just that the characters.
It was how they were written.
It was how they were written and everything were bad. Speaking of Ryuk, what did you think of Ryuk's character?
He had no motivations, or at least any that was. He didn't really have a character. He was there to be manipulative, I guess.
Well, here's the other great thing about the anime. When you see Ryuk's character, he looks terrifying. He's scary, but he's really not. His character, he's kind
of goofy.
Yeah, he's goofy. He's kind of the comedic relief. He's not a scary character, and that's what makes his character interesting too. He's just along for the ride, and they made the Ryuk in the movie supposed to be this kind of scary, evil demon who's basically dropping this notebook down, giving it to Light in hopes that Light will basically use it to destroy.
Yeah, because he's bored.
But I don't know. In the movie, Ryuk's character is more of the mastermind behind the whole thing, which made it also way less interesting.
Exactly, because the great thing about the anime was Light and Ryuk's dynamic with each other and how Light is not intimidated by Ryuk whatsoever. And he actually kind of manipulates Ryuk a little bit, to get his way because he wants to become the god of this new world that he's creating with the Death Note. Yeah. And Light's character in this is a high school kid who likes a girl and he wants to kill people for this girl, I guess?
Yeah, who knows?
If they had just stuck with his motivations that his mom didn't get justice for her death, then that would have been great. And then he just keeps on going in with the killings. And then they had the actual dynamic between L and Light and Ryuk. That would have been pretty amazing. But they decided to make it like Death Note Twilight.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, a Death Note Twilight. Except worse than Twilight. Well,
that is bad.
What did you think of the overall plot of the movie?
Oh, I don't know. It was like all over the place. I don't know what... It's hard to actually describe the plot because the plot is Light gets a death note to kill people, but then he meets this girl who starts manipulating him, and then he starts killing people for this girl, I guess, and then Ryuk is manipulating him, and then L freaks out, and he steals a cop car, and he gets all mad at Light, and then at the end, you don't know if L's gonna kill Light or not.
Yeah, the ending was weird. It just kind of ended.
Yeah. I think they were trying to leave it open for a sequel. Oh my god.
But it didn't have any closure. Absolutely zero closure,
right,
in my opinion. So the plot... I mean...
Well, Mia died. That's about it.
Yeah. I think you can... We went into the movie knowing that it was going to be different from the anime. And we were trying to look at it from a perspective of, separate from the anime.
Yeah, just a movie by itself.
Just judging it based on its qualities alone, not in comparison to the anime. But the whole time you're thinking, okay, well, that's different, that's different, that's different. Maybe they'll still make something good out of it. No, they didn't. So the thing is, they should have kept certain elements of the anime that made it interesting. What made the anime interesting was the plot, was the dynamic, and the chess match between L and Light. Those were the two main things. I mean, you could have even gotten rid of Misa, in my opinion, and that dynamic between Light and L going at it face to face. You could have even changed the ending. I don't care. I just think that the main thing they needed to keep was that cat and mouse game, the mental piece of it, the psychological piece of the show. That's what I enjoyed about this anime.
It's just non-existent in this movie.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about the anime. That's why I like this anime over any other anime. It wasn't about fighting or battling. It wasn't all these bright colors and all this showy. It was about a mental game the whole time. And it totally lost that aspect in the movie. It was not about a mental game. It was like this weird romance
with some adventure elements. It's almost as if they were scared to make it too smart. Like they didn't trust the audience to understand the story elements with this intertwining, intrigue or espionage kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they needed a chase scene. They needed large explosions. Like we didn't see. Nobody died from a heart attack until like the 20th death that we saw or something. Everything was a giant explosion. And it's just like, okay, I get this is America and we like explosions, but come on, I feel like the audience wasn't really respected here.
Well, and they changed, that's the thing, they changed the genre of the movie. I mean, it was like a love story. It was like a romance, a weird one. It wasn't at all like a psychological thriller.
And the romance wasn't even entertaining.
Yeah, it wasn't. There wasn't even a good romance. So they really messed up with the genre. And also the rules of the Notebook. They changed so many rules of the Notebook. And I get that in the anime there are kind of a lot of rules.
And Light was in the movie. He was confused by how many rules there were. He's like, oh, I can't keep up with all these rules.
So the Death Note has completely different rules in the movie than it did in the anime, which is, I guess, would be okay, but in the movie they don't give the audience enough time to understand any of the rules. It's like they just start doing all these random things, and
so there's no point to even saying them.
The audience has no idea. Like, they just pull rules out for convenience. Oh, we're going to add in this random rule so that the character can do this. Now we're going to add in this random, and then the audience members don't even have a chance. They're like, oh, can you do that with the Notebook? Right. They didn't explain that. I guess you can. And it's not as... It seems almost like plot convenience rather than...
And apparently you can manipulate not just people, but objects as well. As we saw at the end of the movie, he's like... And then she takes the notebook from me, and the page goes into a fire. And it's like, what? Then you then you're manipulating objects to fall into a fire.
Yeah, that was the other. It didn't seem like it was really a death note. It wasn't about writing names down. It's like, oh, just write whatever down.
Yeah.
And the characters will do. It was almost like a voodoo doll book where you could literally write an entire page. Then Watari's going to go here. Then he's going to do this.
Then he's going to call me on the phone.
Then he's going to tell me this. Then we're going to have a full-on conversation, and he's going to answer all my questions. Then it was more like a voodoo doll where you could control people versus a book that killed people.
God, that whole sequence with Watari and him on the phone, I was like, stop calling each other. I'm done with this little subplot.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. So I thought the plot also was terrible. It would have been better, again, that I'm fine if they change the rules of the Death Note. But make sure your audience knows the rules so that when the character does something really smart with it, the audience is like, oh yeah. You know, like, this was just seemed like, oh, we're just going to do whatever fits our whims, you know. However we want the movie to end, we'll just add the rule into the Death Note.
Plot convenience.
Yeah, so
it seemed like Ryuk was almost pointless in this movie.
Yeah, I thought Elle's character in the movie was pointless too, because there was no back and forth. It was more the love story. So you go with the love story aspect, and you don't even need Elle in this movie.
Right, so
you could have just had a basic detective.
Yeah, take Elle out, or not even have a detective, have them doing the Death Note.
Yeah.
Because Light is, for some reason, conflicted about using the Death Note in this movie. And so just have him in the conflict with Mia, and then there's your plot.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what happened. Why were they torn between these plots? It completely lacked a lot of focus there. So yeah, the one scene, my favorite scene actually, and it's not my favorite because it was necessary and really awesome. Well, it was kind of awesome. Because it brought me back to like old 80s chase sequences, was the chase between Elle and Light, going through alleyways, jumping through doors. It really brought me back to those chase scenes, and the score during that was pretty awesome. I actually enjoyed that part of it, even though it was pointless.
That one scene is enjoyable if it's completely not in relation at all to the movie.
Yeah.
Just watch the scene on YouTube. Oh, that was an interesting scene.
Because in the end, like, the guy just like knocks Elle out, and then Light just gets away anyway. So it's like, it was.
I would recommend either not watching it or invite some friends over for a laugh.
Yeah, so
and watch it.
Yeah, have like a riff track session. But the enjoyment that we found in it was kind of making fun of it, almost like Dragon Ball Evolution. So
I mean, if I had to give the movie one good redeeming quality, it is that you can make fun. It's
have
not
fun making fun of it.
It's not a boring bad movie. It's it's so bad it's funny movie. That's the only redeeming quality I can give it. So I score this movie mind-bottlingly bad. Overall. And in every way.
Well, that wraps up the review. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next review.